Hello and welcome to the Back to the Feature podcast. I know it has been a while since we have put anything out. It has been a very busy month for us. We've been taking our time, putting our lists together, and we put a lot of thought into our top 10 of 2017 lists that we put together today. I'm really excited to be sitting here with my friend, as always, John Vandeloo.
What's up, guys?
John, this was obviously a tough year. I thought it was a really crowded year.
Yeah.
Especially, I think, when it got to, I think I was saying before the show here, number 1 to 2 was really easy. It's those ones 6 through 10.
Yeah.
Where you're this is such a close race of just, it's whatever you feel, kind of, in a lot of ways.
Yeah, it's going up to almost 15, it's there's 5 that missed the list that I wanted to put on the list.
Yeah.
I actually just decided on my number 10 about 10 minutes ago, so...
I don't think that's a bad problem to have.
No. What do I want to leave off? It's really hard to do,
Yeah, I think that was definitely, for me, the tough thing, where there's movies that I really, really like, and there's big films that people are going to be like, that didn't make your list. That happens, and I think that a lot of it, it's about, the ones that you're feeling, I think, in that moment, or the ones that, had the big impact for you when you were in the theater.
Yep.
There's so many factors to these about why we hold movies so close and dear to ourselves, that I think that whenever you have a fresh year and trying to look at, what is going to be the thing, I think that these lists change through the years. They definitely
Oh, definitely.
So this is definitely, guys, this is our top 10 as of right now.
It could change.
As of this date, January 22nd, when we're recording this. This is how we felt about these films. So I'd say let's just start getting our hands dirty here and start digging. So, John, you said it was debate all the way up until we hit record. What's your number 10?
I have Get Out at number 10. Jordan Peele's directorial debut, and honestly, just a big surprise. Awesome movie to come out early in the year. It just it has everything going on in it. It's got a great screenplay. It's got great camera work. It's got great acting. Daniel Kaluuya is just fantastic. And did you know he's British?
Yes. I saw him on
so
Black
crazy.
Mirror, actually. That's when I first saw him, was Black Mirror.
Yeah, he's he's very British.
I don't think anyone should be surprised anymore whenever their favorite actor comes out and they're British. It's like whenever Finn starts talking, you're just like, what? He's British?
Yeah, but it's a fantastic movie. It's got so many awesome ideas that Jordan Peele played around with. Just that the social identity, just the things that he wants to talk about. Obviously about racism and it was just a really good movie. Really good movie.
Yeah, that's a big movie from this last year. And I think that it's one of the examples, and it's going to come up a lot. There was so much good horror this year. I know a lot of people are like, is it comedy? Is it horror? I think it's like a sick, twisted joke. And maybe that's horrible to you. Maybe it's a little funny to you. But I think that's what I think with Get Out. It's just this sick, twisted joke about something that a lot of minorities deal with every single day.
It's like racial tension.
Yeah.
Not necessarily. I don't know. It's great metaphor, great allegory.
Yeah.
It's just really impressive, and I can't wait to see more from Jordan Peele. So what do you got at number 10, Giovanni?
So for my number 10, and it's funny because I was just saying, there's a lot of horror movies. This is a movie that really angered some people, and a lot of the reason it makes my list is because of the theater experience. I was kind of saying, there's a lot of these ones that you will never forget the experience of what it's like to see something for the first time in the theater. And the movie that I'm selecting is Mother! By Darren Aronofsky. This was one of the most unique films I have ever seen in my life. And I will always remember leaving the theater in this one because it made me it reaffirmed everything I thought I knew about society and the people around me. And at the same time, it was it made me angry because of that fact of what I knew to be true. And there was people who were outraged. There was people what the hell did I just watch? They literally said that out loud when Mother's credits hit.
Oh, yeah.
You know, they were just like, I want my money back. These were all things that people were saying, but for me, I don't think that there was very few pure filmmaking experiences. Darren Aronofsky does what every filmmaker should aspire to do. He is able to tell a story with just visuals and minimal from anything else, and just rely on his actors to give great performances, and for him to show his directorial prowess in showing us these images to make us think and feel. And this is a movie that, though I've said it before now a couple times, and to you especially, is that I don't find myself probably going out and rewatching this film a bunch, but the discussion, like, everybody should watch it and then come back and discuss it type thing.
It's such a unique experience. It's singular.
Yes.
I've never seen a movie quite like that, and it's awesome because I've said that a few times now with Aronofsky.
Yeah.
He is an auteur. He is someone that's dedicated to the art. And it is so creative. It's just a creative piece of work.
Yeah.
And it was very exciting. And yeah, walking out, what the movie's message is, walking out and hearing everyone discuss and talk and question, it really was just kind of like eye-widening. Just
yeah.
Like,
This
movie is literally talking about you.
Yeah. It's inadvertently the audience is driving the film's point home. And I think that's one of the things that makes this movie really special. It's such a great discussion piece, and it's such a great movie to ignite something in an audience and within a group of people. So I think it's one of those ones like everyone should have to go see Mother. And I think you'll all love it to hate it in varying degrees, but I think that no matter how you feel about it, it is going to make you think something, and that conversation you're going to have when you're done watching Mother is going to be one of those eye-opening, staying up late staring at the stars kind of conversations. And I think when film does that, especially on the level with which Aronofsky did it, with giving us so little, it's such an impressive film. So, John, what is your number 9 film for 2017?
Number 9, I have another horror film. It was a movie I was anticipating for a long time. It's a Stephen King novel. I really do enjoy the 90s miniseries as well. I was hesitant hearing that Bill Skarsgård got the part, so I mean, it's just this movie had my curiosity piqued all the way through and through. And it's a young cast, just a lot of young teen and preteen actors. So I just the whole concept, the whole premise, it had me super excited, and sure enough, the movie kind of blew everyone's mind. It made a ton of money. It was a great theater experience, packed house. It's always fun to see a movie in a full theater, and especially a movie with clowns that kill children. Sitting next to a middle-aged woman while watching clowns eat children, it's a fun experience. Just keep eating your popcorn, all right? But no, Bill Skarsgård, I think, blew everyone away. I thought he was fantastic. His voice, the things he did with his eyes, and it benefited from a really great screenplay. The child actors were fantastic. Finn Wolfhard was just a standout. I mean, he already is great in Stranger Things, but I mean, this really put that exclamation point on it. Like, this kid can act. Yeah. This kid can deliver lines, and he's just got a lot of charisma. But Andy Muschietti, he doesn't have a whole lot of filmography prior to this film, and this is an impressive piece. And I'm really excited to see what he does with the second part, the sequel. And just everything revolving around this film is really cool because who are they going to cast for the adult counterparts? I don't know. It's just it was a blast seeing it, and the movie I thought was disturbing. It had great camera work, cinematography too. That was Chung Chung, Chung Chung, The Handmaiden and Old Boy, and you can see that.
Yeah, I think
great
it definitely,
cinematography.
I don't know, like, how it does shine through so much that same cinematographer has kind of that feeling of those like South Korean type horror films, and just the way that it's done, and It's very subtle, but it's definitely there.
Yeah, I think it's an epic. You know, it's an epic horror. It's got a lot going on in it. A lot of things to say, a lot of things to navigate through in the plot. Just a really great experience.
Yeah, that's definitely, it was a big one this year. Everybody went out and saw it. I know it's a huge hit with my group of friends. That movie is constantly spinning in my house. My roommate watches that one so much. But honestly, it helps because it really did reaffirm my love.
And actually, the music for that was Benjamin Wallfish, too. I know he was some of the sound stuff with Blade Runner 2049 as well this year. Yeah. All right, Giovanni, what did you have at your number 9?
For my number 9, it is probably my favorite Christopher Nolan movie in a while. I have Dunkirk. I got the absolute pleasure, as you know, because you're sitting right next to me. We got to go see this in IMAX, and this was one of the just greatest movies to watch in IMAX, period. This was such an experience film, and just like Mother, my first pick, and it's these theater experiences sometimes. It's these things I think a movie is sometimes that's most powerful when it first hits you, and when it first shows you what it has, because you're not expecting it. And Dunkirk was definitely this amazing exercise in Christopher Nolan's technical prowess and giving us a window into an event. And not trying to dramatize it and trying to stretch it to this place to we're gonna make this a movie. We feel like passive observers, peering in at this event from all these different angles. The way that Christopher Nolan put that together is so impressive, and I think it's one of those things where it's there's very, very few directors that can pull off some of these things that Christopher Nolan does. It's funny because it's you never hear about it anymore. But I remember when the movie first came out, everybody was talking about the timeline, how messed up the timeline is. But man, for me, the way that he sets it up, the way that he gives you the visual cues so you know who is who, where, what is what, it is just a masterful exercise in a director really doing what they're supposed to do, knowing every in and out, every facet, every little moving part. It's he opened up a watch and he's an expert watchmaker.
I love that.
That's the thing about his.
I love that Zimmer kind of went with that theme too.
Yeah,
the music, the clock ticking.
And I think that's one of those things with Nolan that is a skill set that, as much as I love guys like Denny and things like that, as much as I love those guys, this is the thing that Christopher Nolan does that those guys can't quite do, or just does it in that way that is just so handy. He knows how to grab you with the smallest stuff. So Dunkirk was a great experience of a war film. All of the action sequences from with the aerial combat was so well done.
Amazing. Yeah.
I think the best aerial combat in any war film ever. And then it very silently has amazing performances from its actors. Tom Hardy, again, covering up most of his freaking face, but still acting circles around people. And then you have Kenneth Branagh, who gives one of the most emotional performances. He's the heart of that film, and he conveys it all with just his face. Just the look of hope on his face is enough to make me want to fucking cry when I watch that movie. He is fantastic in it and proves why he's one of the best actors around. It's just one of those things for me. I was not a big fan of Interstellar. Its plot was just so convoluted, and there's so many things I liked about it, but there was a lot of things with the plot and the characters that I didn't. And I think that with Dunkirk, he stripped that away, because I find that that's part of the thing that he doesn't do nearly as well, is sometimes with his characters, they don't really work, especially his female characters, don't really ever work too much for me. And then, some of the choreography and, his Batman films. But he really strips away that character part in a way that I know for some people was frustrating, that it wasn't, this character-driven film. It's not. We're not going to get a bunch of exposition. We're not going to get to know this kid's backstory and why he's in Dunkirk. We get what's actually important to what's going on and what we need to see about this event. And I think that that's one of those things with Dunkirk that not everybody got it or likes that, but when you look at it from the thing of this is what his goal was, he achieved that goal better than anyone else, and I think it gives Dunkirk a very unique feeling to a lot of other World War II films that we've seen. So Dunkirk was my 9th pick.
And we'll talk about Dunkirk a little more later.
Yes, for sure. John, what is your number 8 pick for this year?
Now, we already talked about it a little bit here, but my number 8 is Mother. I moved it up a little bit higher than what you had it as. But honestly, and I didn't say it a whole lot either, but Darren Aronofsky, he's one of my favorite filmmakers. Mm-hmm. And I think, I've always felt that way because Pi and Requiem for a Dream are some of my favorite films of all time. I think Requiem is just a masterpiece. Yes. And then, of course, going through his filmography, it's just so amazing the things that he does. Even Noah. I wasn't a big fan of Noah, but
it's still a step for me too.
But it still is a very unique film, and there's still things about it that I think, from a director's standpoint, that are actually pretty fantastic.
I feel like the studio got in his way on that one too. You know what I mean? There's
definitely things in there. Yeah.
The studio wanted it to kind of come out this way, where I think that if he had gotten free reign, I don't quite know if that movie would be the same.
Yeah, I don't.
If it wasn't so high profile.
Yeah. And I've always been drawn to Aronofsky because of his religious undertones, or in the overtones. Some of it's pretty on the nose, some of it's very subtle.
There's a lot of stuff in Mother I think is quite on the nose. I think that people make the misconception that it's not supposed to be, because it is.
Yeah. The blasphemy. A lot of upset people just saying it's really blasphemous and this and that. And honestly, the allegory in and of itself is not blasphemous. Actually, I think it's showing. It's showing hypocrisy. It's showing society and as a whole, and just what people do and what people have done. And so okay, is that blasphemous? No, not really. I don't know. I could get if you want to listen to me talk about that, just watch a review. Mm-hmm. But Jennifer Lawrence, Javier Bardem. This is probably the best I've seen Jennifer Lawrence.
Yes.
And Javier Bardem, he's always good, but he's fantastic in this film. Mm-hmm. The cinematography is really breathtaking.
Yeah.
Matthew, his last name, Libotique. He's done everything with Aronofsky. So he's got the fountain in his filmography. That's all you really need to say.
You don't need a name.
The guy who filmed that movie. I just really enjoyed it. The experience of that film and just kind of picking apart that film was a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's pure technical prowess on display, and I think that for people that aren't so, knowledgeable about direction or cinematography, or when those things don't quite matter to people when it's all story and characters, you're going to be missing some stuff from Mother, but as a pure exercise of filmmaking, I don't think there's a better film kind of this year.
It's tough. I would argue almost something like Dunkirk, but this one has layers of allegory.
Yeah.
Which is different. It's a whole different thing.
I love that, metaphorically, this movie is, you can take it in a lot of different ways. You can make it purely about religion. You can make it purely about the earth. You can make it purely about human beings being dickbags. It is so encompassing and fluid. And I think that's one of the things I love about it, is that he shows that those things are all connected. You know what I mean? Everybody is talking about it's saying this thing, it only can be one allegory. It's don't you realize that all of those things are connected? Our zealous fervor for religion is part of the reason why we've destroyed parts of our earth. All of this stuff is, connected, directly in my mind. So, when that first came out, I never got that with people in their criticism where they're it needs to lock down, what exactly he's trying to say. And it's
he's showing human nature.
He's showing it all. Yeah, he's showing all of it.
Yeah.
All of it. On display. And it's kind of like that thing when someone mocks you and they go that's what you sound like right now. That is Darren Aronofsky speaking to you through this movie. That's what this movie is. This is what you look like right now. Yep. You're a bunch of people sitting on the sink You're not supposed to be. And it's a great film, and it's one of those ones. The more you think about it, the more time.
It's
you
the one
really
it's what I
into it mentally. It's such a great film.
Yeah, it's the one I talked about the most. I mean, it was like weeks and weeks of just thinking
Fighting
about this,
people online.
fighting people online.
These are my favorite movies that I thought about this year, 2017 list.
What'd you have at number 8?
So for me, number 8, and now we're gonna shift gears a little bit, and for me it was Baby Driver. This is one of the most fun movies of the summer, and look, guys, leave your Fast and Furious shit at home. These are the best like movie chase scenes in a long time, and I love it because Edgar Wright. We've only seen him doing the Cornetto trilogy, and yes, they're diverse films, but they are tonally all the same thing. They're working with Simon Pegg, this is a movie that really kind of like this is Edgar Wright just making a film like something that's not like kind of like a spoof, because all those movies in the Cornetto trilogy are kind of spoofish.
Yeah.
Shaun of the Dead being the most that is like the direct, like, okay, we are spoofing the zombie genre. Like Hot Fuzz, it does it to cop movies, but it's a little less still. Like, it's a little more serious.
Less, yeah.
And it's a little less. And then
drier, yeah.
And then World's End, it's even less. Because it's not really, I feel like, it's not quite really imitating any specific movies, but it's definitely done more for laughs and playing with conventions of a few different genres.
Yeah.
Now, with this film, this is him doing his own thing. And man, does he just not just create magic and like kinetic magic. This movie has so much energy to it, and I think a lot of it has to do with the soundtrack and the fact that he sneaks in a musical right under your nose in this film.
Yeah.
Everything is on rhythm, on time, everybody's doing things to the beat. It's like everybody's dancing and they don't even know it. And that's what I love about Baby Driver, and why, like, whenever I rewatch it, it's just so much fun. It's got great performances by John Hamm, who I'm not usually a big John Hamm guy. Really like him in this one. Jamie Foxx was really fun, even though I was joking. This is actually what Motherfucker Jones is like from the Horrible Bosses movies.
That's what he wished he'd be.
This is this is him when he sleeps at night. What he thinks he's actually like. Yeah, this Motherfucker Jones turned up to 11. And it's funny, honestly, watching this film, I just sit there and go, why did they not cast Ansel Elgort as Han Solo? Now, I know we haven't seen young Han Solo, but holy shit, when you watch Baby Driver, that's what I think of. I just think of, man, that kid should be Han Solo.
Baby Driver is a movie that did not make my list. I was really sad that it didn't make my list.
I'm sad, too.
I just watched it this weekend, too. I just bought it on Blu-ray, watched it on Saturday night.
Yeah.
And it's funny, I was scheduled to watch Blade Runner. I had it penned in, but I was drinking, and I was like, you know what? I can't watch Blade Runner right now.
Yeah.
I'm not going to watch a 3-hour noir. I'm going to sit down and watch Baby Driver. Listen to some music. I'm going to listen to some music, watch some... it's just a fun movie.
That's why it's on my list. That is the exact scenario which is why this movie makes the list of the spot it does. Because it's that movie, like... I had a few extra drinks. I don't want to watch something too cerebral right now. I need something fun that's going to match my energy right now. Baby Driver's that film. And I love, too, the diversity that they have with these car chases. They're in different types of vehicles, and the chases play out differently. I love how they have that Baby uses the different vehicles to his advantage, whatever he's using. And it's not like the typical cars that you're going to see. This isn't Fast and the Furious, which apparently every car chase movie has to be. Someone said that to me, actually, just a couple weeks ago. Like, I didn't like Baby Driver. I thought it was going to be more like Fast and the Furious. And I was like, okay. Did you ever see Drive with Ryan Gosling? They're like, yeah. I'm like, did you like that? I'm like, no. It's like, okay, I can stop talking to him now. But it's funny, because he was saying, it's nothing like the chases in there. I was like, you ever heard of Bullet with Steve McQueen? Just, like, curious. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no.
The car chase has been around for a while, bud. Fast and Furious didn't invent it, and if anything, they ruined it. It's the Call of Duty of movies, dude. Oh. Grow up.
Ooh.
So, Baby Driver is so much fun, but you don't feel like an idiot while you're watching it. It's got a great cast. It's hilarious. It's got good action in it. Yeah. It's got great stunts in it.
It's violent, too.
It's violent. John Bernthal's in it. It's that violent. That's how violent this movie is. John Bernthal shows up. There's got to at least be a few liters of blood for John Bernthal to appear in it. So, yeah, this one for me, it was really hard. It was one of those ones that really, on the rewatch, solidified, like, man, this movie's fun. This movie is just a bunch of energy. It's that perfect movie, like you said. I've had a few too many shots tonight. I need a movie to match it. Baby Driver's that movie that's going to fucking jump up and match it every time. So, John, moving on to number 7.
My pick for number 7 is Detroit. This is a film that nobody went and saw.
I was about to make the joke.
For some reason. It's funny, too, because, like, throughout July, I mean, we were still in peak Wonder Woman talk.
Yeah.
Just talking about, like, female directors and just seeing what they can do. And this is Catherine Bigelow. Mm-hmm. And she's been around for a long time making fantastic movies.
Yeah,
yeah. I mean, The Hurt Locker, Zero Dark 30. Like, these are some big
Honestly,
time
Point
movies.
Break. Like,
Point Break,
let's not fuck around.
Yeah.
Like, we don't all really just secretly love Point Break. It doesn't matter.
It's got Keanu Reeves
It's
in
cheesy. Yeah, it's people love that film. She should still definitely get the credit on that one.
But I think, like, I didn't really know what to expect with Detroit. You know, I went into it, obviously, because Catherine Bigelow was directing it. Mm-hmm. And then just the cast is fantastic. With, oh, man. I didn't prepare this. John Boyega.
Yeah. Will Poulter.
Yeah, Will Poulter.
Anthony Mackie.
And then L.G. Smith was a big standout in that film, too.
The new guy. Yeah,
the new guy.
Fresh face. Never seen him in any other film.
He was great in this movie. Him singing and everything else. But no, this film made me feel just on the edge of my seat, tense. And it had everything about it. The acting is just exceptional. Will Poulter. Well, let's see if he gets nominated for anything. Mm-hmm. The Oscar nominations, those haven't come out yet, have they?
Haven't.
But this movie's
not getting any attention. It's a shame.
It is a shame. But it's man, I just felt sick watching it. And I think a lot of people did, and that's not a bad thing. That's to its credit for sure. Yeah. Maybe they took some liberties with the story that could be a critique, but I think every film does to a degree. The statement it's trying to make, what it's trying to show you, and yeah, that stuff has happened. Regardless if this situation is 100% accurate to the movie, that stuff was going on and still is. And it's kind of sad that that a lot of people didn't go out and see it, because it was definitely a film with an exclamation point for me this year. Yeah. All right, Giovanni, what did you have at number 7?
So, number 7 is another one that we talked about before. I have It. Obviously, Pennywise the Clown was going to appear on both of these lists. He wouldn't let me not put him on the list. It is, as we were talking about before, it is such a great horror film, and I honestly, when I see a movie like this, I feel like it's a big win for all of us who love horror, because it is showing us what we kind of are sorely missing from like the great decades and like of horror. You know, when we talk about the 70s and 80s, you know why those decades were great? Because there was actual fan bases that supported these things, that liked these things. And I think that it is a great like rally around horror movie where we can all go to the theater and be scared. You know, it is so just amazingly directed. The cinematography is so good. These child actors just do such a great job, especially the ones that I didn't know. Like, you know, we mentioned Finn Wolfhard before, but really that entire crew in the Losers Club. Besides, Mike, they don't give much time to, and Little Star-Lord, they don't give a lot of time to. But the rest of the cast is so good. Like, these kids are so good, and it really, I think, sold the movie. If they had not gotten the right children to play these kids, I think that it would not have gone off nearly as well.
I didn't mention it before, and I'm sorry for interrupting, but Sophia Lillis.
That's Beth.
Yeah. Yep. The actress she was a big standout for me in the film.
Yeah, like I said, the main ones of the Losers Club. I think that whole cast, those five kids are really great. And it's almost a shame that we're not going to be able to see them anymore beyond this movie. You mentioned the '90s miniseries before. I always felt part one was the best part of that.
Yep.
And this is an improvement on it. I think they do it better here. Now we could definitely argue about like book to film accuracy, but has any movie ever been accurate to a book ever? I don't think so. And I think that they added just enough, and they got the tone right. And I think that's the big thing. They got the tone right. Yeah. Because Derry feels the way it should feel. Like, it's eerie, and you're like, why is no one noticing these kids are, like, going missing? Like, why do these adults not care? Like, the whole movie really does a great job of conveying the shroud of evil that sort of hangs over Derry and its citizens. And that's something that you can't quite do without a great cinematographer and director and good actors and people that really are getting behind this singular vision of what bringing the Stephen King story to life is. It didn't surprise me, though, with its success. You know, Stranger Things, especially season 1, is basically it. You know, it is very similar story, so I think it really proved that people wanted to see something just like it. So I think a movie like this was the perfect time for it to come out. And now everybody's scared of clowns again, which is good.
It's definitely good, yeah.
So that was a little bit more on it from me. Mentioning though, sorry, real quick, Bill Skarsgård. That, like you said before, big surprise because he was my biggest worry going in. I saw Hemlock Grove. I did not like Hemlock Grove.
That's just bad.
It's just a bad show overall. Yeah. Everybody looked bad coming out of that. But that was my only frame of reference, at the time, and I was just like, oh man, I don't know, this might not be very good, because that's all I really had at the time was, that kid from Hemlock Grove. Yeah, right. But man, it's an iconic performance. People are gonna be dressing up for that for Halloween for fucking ever. It's gonna be that and Harley Quinn and Deadpool till they're dead. That's it. And some Heath Ledger Jokers still sprinkled in. They need to move on with the times, right? So, John, what is your number 6 movie for 2017?
Number 6, this is a movie that originally I had it up higher. It moved down my list a little bit, and, who knows, time could change this. Mm-hmm. But I have Wind River at number 6. Taylor Sheridan, written and directed. This guy Sicario.
He's my favorite.
He wrote Sicario and then Hell or High Water as well, which was my, I believe, number 3 from last year. Mm-hmm. This movie just blew me away. Jeremy Renner is amazing. This is his movie, and I know you have a lot to say about him when you talk about this film too. But he was just the things he does in this film. With his performance, he should be nominated, I think, for an Oscar. I don't know. We'll see if that's going to happen or not. I haven't heard too much buzz around Wind River, but this movie was amazing. I didn't watch any trailers for this film. I didn't watch any TV spots. Nothing. I completely went into it blind, which I rarely do, and the experience of having that like John Bernthal shows up. I didn't even know he was in the movie.
He does that this year. He just
shows up places.
And don't worry, there was blood. There was enough blood, guys, to get him to come out.
This movie's tone, the cinematography, that western, that northern west. It's everything about it. Everything about this film was so strong. It's so tense and realistic. And its overall theme and message, I love how Taylor Sheridan mixes in that Native American culture and history, and I just can't wait to see more from this guy, more what he's going to write and direct. But this film really did blow me away. It's one that I haven't bought yet on Blu-ray, but I plan on getting it very soon because I need to rewatch it. I'm gonna keep this short though with Wind River because we are going to talk about it a little bit more later. And I'd love to dive into it with you going forward. But Giovanni, what is your number 6?
So for me, number 6 is one that showed up on your list earlier. At your number 10 is my number 6 with Get Out. Just the other week, and this is why I'm glad we took our time with this, because this movie shot up my rankings because of its rewatch. And I think that it just shows how good Jordan Peele is, especially as a writer. I think rewatching it definitely has flaws. Like, from a direction standpoint, there are things that can be better. I think that if Jordan Peele hooks himself up with a better cinematographer, I think that he could end up with some really, truly fantastic movies from the technical end. From the actual, just like, you know, the visuals and everything like that. Now, not to say this movie isn't greatly directed, but it does seem in some places to just be a very high-budget television episode. But what this movie does that other films don't do, or some films have never done, this thing that it does, it speaks about race in a way that, that in my entire life I've never seen anybody actually address some of these things. The more subtle and kind of almost more benign aspects of racism. And I think that this movie too, it's this great fucking onion of a film that you just keep peeling layers and all these details. It's a fantastic screenplay. And I think that that's the thing with this movie, that it's gonna have this longevity because it's a movie that every time you crack into it, there's another layer you didn't see before. And as you said before, it's got great performances by Daniel Kaluuya. I don't think everyone keeps saying Kahlua. I'm fairly certain it's not the alcoholic beverage that your 15-year-old sister sneaks. But it is, yeah. But also, I really love Bradley Whitford in this.
Yes.
And then to whoever, I do not know her name offhand. Who plays Rose, the daughter. She is amazing in this film, and she is, when you rewatch this film, you watch everything she does, especially when you know how it turns out. Every little interaction with her. Allison Williams. Because I don't think I've seen her in anything else. But man, does she not just knock this movie out of the park. She said she is a highlight when you were watching the second time. Because you know everything that she's is doing has this ulterior motive, and you know what it is now. It's one of those things that's like so eye-opening with that film, that when you know what the actual answers are, and then you go back and watch it, it just makes the metaphors better. It just deepens the conversation. It
adds some tension, I'm sure, too, because you're like, you kind of see it and feel it going through.
Yeah.
Yeah, she is. She's one of
the best villains from this last year.
Caleb Landry Jones is great in it too. The son.
Oh yeah, he pops up quite a bit now, and I really like him. He was on Twin Peaks as well. On the new Twin Peaks, he plays another like skeevy kind of dude in this. That he kind of plays in Twin Peaks, where they're just like, he just looks so nasty and ratty, and you're just like
the sweat.
Yeah.
Are they spraying sweat on him, or does he actually make himself sweat like that? Because it's gross.
It doesn't look like, it looks like human fluids. Like, yeah, it is disturbing. But yeah, and then too, Catherine Keener as well, as the mother, does a really great job as the hypnotist in this film.
Yeah, her voice, the way she, her natural voice and her her influx and voice, it's just how she talks. It's very unsettling. But it's unsettling because of how calming it is too, you know?
No, yeah, I was actually going to say Catherine Keener could read me a bedtime story. I'd fall right asleep. That woman has a great voice. And so yeah, I think it was kind of a perfect role for her to do that, and I think they used that to their advantage quite well in this film. But yeah, Get Out, definitely one to rewatch once, twice, 3 times. It's one that I think that is definitely going to gain some steam going forward as a cult hit. And it's crazy, too, because how many of these movies so far that we've named that are from early on in the year.
Yeah.
This being a February release, that's crazy that I have that now. It's number 6 for the whole year. So, going from there, we are going to get into the top 5, John. So how are you kicking it off?
Top 5. I am kicking it off. My number 5 is The Disaster Artist. This is a film that I was anticipating all year long because I love James Franco. I know there's been some stuff that's come out now I don't want to get into that, but just the movie itself, him playing Tom. Okay, so I watched The Room for the first time as well, like the week leading up to going to see this movie, and holy crap, that movie is so bad. It's one of the worst movies ever made. Tommy Wiseau is crazy. I think he's actually crazy. And seeing James Franco play Tommy Wiseau, he plays it perfectly. I'm glad he won the Golden Globe because he deserved it for his performance in this film. And it's just, I think the biggest surprise, because what I was expecting is we're getting a James Franco, Dave Franco, Seth Rogen. We're getting one of these films. I just assumed it was going to be a straight up, raunchy comedy, kind of playing into that. But it's so much more than that. The biography aspects and just how inspiring the film ended up being is really what drew me in. It's a film that I clapped at the end of it. I don't clap in movie theaters very often. And just kind of that feeling, like, follow your dreams. Try to accomplish your dreams. Even if it's a garbage film like The Room, it's just a great message. And especially someone who wants to make a film, I want to be a filmmaker as well. It's just kind of one of those things like, yeah, it can be garbage. So I just love the message. Watching Dave Franco and James Franco play off each other in the film was a lot of fun. Watching the chemistry of these two, not just joke around or not just be in a comedy, but actually have like dramatic moments and scenes together, and watching that friendship on screen. It was a lot of fun. It's a great movie.
Yeah, I had a hard time keeping it off my list. It's definitely like an honorable mention. It was in like the 9 and 10 spot a couple times. It was really hard for me to keep it off, but I think that you hit the nail on the head with your review there. Just it's such an uplifting, inspirational film, and it's so funny because it's a film about a failure.
Yeah,
but it is so inspiring, and it's so touching. I think that he's such a great job of playing Tommy Wiseau. As soon as we walked out, I said it. I was like, he should win the fucking Golden Globe for that.
Yeah, we said in a review
it's
too.
Exactly what he should get, and I thought that it was great to see him win it. And his role as Tommy Wiseau, I think, is like kind of one of the best things that he's ever done. I know that he's talking about him and Dave collaborating more, and that being the big difference. I think this is the best frat pack film in that way, like where they've really, I think, brought it all together. And there's moments of drama, but it's still hilarious, but it's still human, and natural comedy. So. Yeah, it was really hard to keep it off my list. I really, really did enjoy The Disaster Artist quite a bit. There's other films, though, that do what it does. A few that probably do it a little better. But overall, just a really great film. Great achievement for James Franco and all of his guys that were involved. So that's my little piece on that.
And what do you got at number 5? What are you kicking it off
number
with?
5. So my number 5 is another one that you mentioned from earlier on your list. Is Detroit. We talked about it before. This is honestly, I think it's everybody should be ashamed of themselves for not going to see this movie. I don't even get why y'all didn't go see it, because it is a movie directed by a woman about like civil injustices. Like, how are all you woke ass motherfuckers not like in line to go see that? On a message board, you deride anybody for not saying Wonder Woman is the greatest film of all time, and you let a movie like Detroit slip through your fingers? Man, it's almost like you guys are just doing it for show. Detroit was one of the hardest like films to sit through and watch, in a way of like, it was so emotionally like impactful. Like, I don't think I've sat on the edge of my seat quite like I sat like while watching Detroit. Like, I was everyone's 40-year-old mom with like both my hands over my mouth in shock. The movie had me like edge of tears for long spans of time. It was playing with my emotions and the tension. And I've never been a big Catherine Bigelow fan. Usually I kind of find her movies to be on the drier side. Like Zero Dark 30's never been something that really interests me too much. Especially subject matter wise. So going into it, I was not like super excited or like coming in with this like, oh, Catherine Bigelow is like this really great director. This is her greatest film to me, from what I've seen. I think that this is her best film. she did such a great job with this movie that this movie feels like it's older than it should be. I think if this movie had come out back when, maybe actually back during like probably the 70s or 80s, I think this would be a movie that people talk about as being like this great American film about our country and about the people that live in it. I think that it's like it's like a period movie of like the highest order, but everybody just sort of ignored that it existed.
Yeah,
it's so sad.
It is. So it made like nothing. It made like $20 million or $15 million. Like, nobody went and saw it. But I think the cinematography too. And I just want to mention is Barry Ackroyd. He did The Hurt Locker. He's worked on like The Newsroom and actually The Big Short. He's kind of that handheld style.
Yeah, they do a great job in this, and I think it really plays up the tension. Like, you see the sweat, like, forming on people's foreheads type kind of...
Yeah, there's kind of a kinetic... There's, like, this energy to it, and when they... Because there's a lot of, like, moments in the film of, decisions being made subtly.
Yeah.
Especially with Boyega, John Boyega's character, and how he's kind of playing both sides, and he's just kind of in the middle of it. And he doesn't really know how to navigate in this situation necessarily. It's just that I don't want to die.
Yeah.
I don't want to die. I want to just... his performance and just the way that... Yeah, his performance is really good. Will Poulter is a massive standout. This movie shocked me. And it stuck with me. It made me think about a lot of different things. It just made me analyze things. And it is not listed as a horror film, but it is. It is a horror film. This is a big standout for the summer. I couldn't stop thinking about this film.
Yeah, as films go, this year, this movie shook me to my core.
Yeah.
While I was watching it, just things that'll last with me forever. It wasn't until I was making this list that I realized how much of an impact Detroit really had made on me. This is definitely one I'm gonna own and I'm gonna rewatch, and I really do love. I think it is a movie that in a different era or different decade, I think it would have been called an American classic, but in our really crowded, weird, movie world that we live in now, it's one that gets swept under the rug, sadly. So, John, after we lamented the results of Detroit from this year, what was your number 4 film?
My number 4 film. Now this is one that actually kind of like it was kind of spur of the moment. I was like, yeah, you know what? I did enjoy this movie enough to put it this high on my list, and that is Star Wars: The Last Jedi.
Oh, here's a controversy.
Well, this is just, I love Star Wars. I grew up on this. This is, if you guys are listening to this, you watch our channel, you've heard us gush and talk about Star Wars. I probably mention it way too often. But, I was a little mixed coming out of it, and then the second viewing, I was just like, you know what, I love this movie. This is it's just Ryan Johnson, like, made a Star Wars film following The Force Awakens, following the complaints and the critiques of The Force Awakens, and made something really fresh, something really unique, something just grand in scale, massive in scale, and just took it and made it his own thing. And there's a lot of controversy around it, a lot of things with Luke Skywalker's character, but I loved Luke Skywalker on my second viewing. First viewing, I was a little mixed. Second viewing, I understood what Ryan Johnson was doing, and he did it right. He did what needed to be done. And, honestly, just everything else surrounding this film. We can talk about the characters, you can talk about the plot and the story and all that stuff, but just, like, everything surrounding it. Seeing this movie in IMAX, hearing John Williams still making amazing music, just the cinematography, the special effects, all of the cast. It's just one of the biggest movies ever made. It's just one of the biggest movies ever made, along with the other Star Wars films, But, just Oscar Isaac, Daisy Ridley, Adam Driver in this film is amazing. as Kylo Ren. I loved what they did with the story, and it honestly, this is a day one Blu-ray purchase or 4K purchase for me. It's one that I'll rewatch and analyze, and can't wait to watch the whole saga together. It's Star Wars, and I love Star Wars, and that's why it's on my list as high as it is.
Yeah, Star Wars is another one that was kind of on the bubble of that 10 spot, 9 spot, like kind of fluctuating in and out. You know, there's things about it that are messy. There's things about it that don't work. I think that's the only reasons it got kept off my list. My personal enjoyment of it is quite high, and talking about like Luke, I've never liked Luke more than this film. I think that's so funny about like a lot of people are just like, oh, I can't believe they did this to Luke, and I'm like, oh really? He just started getting good, like like he just got really interesting to me. But yeah, it was definitely one that was definitely a consideration for me as far as especially the big blockbusters this year. But just didn't quite make my list. But yeah, definitely one I am still gonna I love. Adam Driver. I'm just gonna say his name,
Adam Driver,
and I'll just end there.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, we talk about a top 10 list. I'd love to be as objective as possible when I critique and review film. But our top 10 list, it's a mixture of our objective and subjective, tastes and stuff like that. And honestly, just the wow factor, I think, alone on this film easily justifies it being as high as it is for me. And just everything about it. I'm really excited for Star Wars going forward. And just that too, like seeing Carrie Fisher, this was her last movie, obviously, and just some of the stuff between her and Luke Skywalker in this film. Just seeing Leia and Luke interact again. And just what's said in the movie, it's very special. Just being such a big fan.
Yeah, and she has a great performance in it too.
She does give a great performance.
I don't think she's ever been like the greatest actress in the world. I don't think that was never her thing. She's an amazing writer. Like she was such a great writer. Acting was kind of more of a secondary thing, I think, at the end of the day to her talents. But I think her acting was top notch in this. She was really good.
Yeah. So then moving on to number 4, Giovanni, what do you got?
Well, number 4 here is the newest film for me. It's the freshest one in my mind, and I mean, we're coming off of yours controversy for one whole other reason than what mine is. My pick is 3 Billboards Outside of Ebbing, Missouri. I am the biggest In Bruges fan you will ever meet. You tell your friends that I said that, and you send them to fight me. Like a karate knowing lollipop man. I'll take them down. I love In Bruges. I love Martin McDonagh's sense of humor, and his screenplays are so funny. And he's only had a few here with In Bruges, 7 Psychopaths, and now this. It's so funny because this movie isn't necessarily a comedy, but I don't think I laughed nearly as hard in almost any other film than I did in 3 Billboards. There is so much great human interaction and very natural humor. Like, I think he does such a great job of that, of like doing natural comedy. Like, it doesn't feel like forced jokes or like, punchlines and you're waiting for the Marvel like rim shot at the end or something. Like, it just sort of feels like exactly like all of the humor is within character. All of the humor is human and real feeling, Yeah. It's not there for its sake. It's how we speak to each other. And Martin McDonagh does that better, I think, than any other screenplay writer. I've heard people comparing it to Crash, but apparently if you have a movie where a white racist is redeemed at all, that means it's Crash. Even though I think that people need to remember that racism is ignorance, and just because someone is ignorant doesn't make them necessarily a bad person. Maybe you should stop and think on that one for a little while. But I think that there is definitely so many interesting themes from a different perspective. I think that it's funny because like civil rights and race is a huge topic this year, and I have like 3 of them packed together as I'm looking here. And this is definitely the other perspective of it. And it's just great performances by Frances McDormand.
Yeah, she's amazing.
Sam Rockwell, Woody Harrelson. all really shine in this film. It is definitely one that is going to leave you pondering. In the end, when I first watched it, I had a hard time with its ending, but the more I thought about it, especially thinking about it and thinking about the ending of In Bruges, it put me into the right headspace a little bit, and really thinking about what Martin McDonagh was trying to say with that ending. It's definitely not going to satisfy a lot of people, but this is definitely a movie that, for me, I know that I was enjoying it more than quite a few of the people in my theater. But at the same time, I thought that it cut through really, really well with my audience. A lot of people got on the wavelength and the sense of humor. But then also he does a thing that In Bruges has, where it's like that movie is highs and lows. Like, there is hilarious things that happen, and there are deeply depressing, distressing things that happen. And I think Martin McDonagh does such a great job with it, and it's because of the humanity with which he writes his characters and his screenplay. Just in where the humor is completely within character and is completely of our world, so are the lows, is the anger and the grief and the sadness. He's able to, I think, capture human beings within his screenplays and also still make them characters. So I think that Three Billboards is a really interesting, fun, unique, original movie. People need to go see it, and I will be at home laughing my ass off to it when it hits Blu-ray.
It's a movie that I maybe just didn't brew on it long enough. It just missed my list. It was obviously, I was battling quite a few movies. But yeah, it is a fantastic film. I just watched it last weekend. It is really good. A lot of performances. The screenplay is fantastic, and if that doesn't win the Oscar, I don't know what will.
Yeah, I think it's the best. It's the best screenplay this year.
Yeah, I think so too. It's the moving pieces, the characters within the plot. It just, there's so much going on. There's so much intricacy, and like you said, the highs and the lows. Being able to hit all those different beats, with it being funny and naturally funny, and just having there's moments in there, where you're just like the grief and like the just the pain that you feel the characters go through is done excellently. This was hard to keep off my list. I will say that. Because I just, It
was the most soul searching I had to do with this list, because the cycle time was much shorter than a lot of the other films. I only had the one shot at it, so I really put a lot of time thinking about it, how I felt.
But I also I will note as well, I'm not the biggest In Bruges fan. It's been a long time since I've seen it. That's one I keep talking about. Actually, I haven't. I actually have your copy at my place right now. I haven't watched it yet.
You have my copy.
Yep, I have your copy of In Bruges. I got to watch it again. But I guess it's just I guess I'm not as familiar with that style, or as I don't know.
Yeah,
it's
a weird thing. In Bruges is like a movie I go to because it just, like, for me, it's like that's my sense of humor, sort of like in a film. So, like, with something like Three Billboards, Martin McDonagh, like, he just knows exactly how to make me laugh. Like, it's sometimes, like, there's things in that movie, he's writing shit for me, I think. So, moving on from Three Billboards, what is your number 3 film for 2017?
My number 3 was listed by you way earlier on. I actually have Christopher Nolan's Dunkirk at number 3. And this is kind of more of maybe an objective standpoint. I have Dunkirk here because I think it just is one of the most impressive films to come out this year. I don't necessarily want it to win Best Picture, but I could easily see it winning Best Picture. Yeah, I don't know. We'll see. We'll see what happens. But no, we went and saw this in IMAX, and I will say it was 70mm IMAX. I even got a T-shirt that says I saw it in 70mm. But no, this movie is just impressive filmmaking. Christopher Nolan is one of my favorite filmmakers. I think he's probably one of everybody's favorite filmmakers. Mm-hmm. And this is just kind of a culmination of everything that he does. I feel like there's tastes of like Memento and Inception and like just kind of everything that he's been building towards in his career, and it just kind of like just explodes on screen. You get 2 hours, like an hour and 45 minutes of Christopher Nolan creating something you haven't quite seen before and doing it at the most impressive, technically perfected, just version of everything. Tom Hardy, Mark Rylance, Cillian Murphy, Kenneth Branagh, the cast in this film, and just like the simplicity of everyone, just kind of going through it. But Mark Rylance really did stick out for me in this film. Him coming on the boat across the channel, just the story beats of there's character development in this film. I know a lot of people were disappointed that it didn't, have that oorah, like blockbuster type feel to it, but I really just loved the silence. I loved the quietness. I loved that kind of like that realism, just following Finn Whitehead's character on the beach in the beginning as he meets up with that French soldier, and they like just kind of like head nod to each other. Yeah, okay, we're gonna stick together. We're brothers here now, And just the panic and the terror and just them trying to get off that beach. And I didn't know anything about Dunkirk really before that. I think that's I think a lot of people didn't know, actually. I'm not alone. I'm not alone here.
It comes up in films as something that, like, when you're in a World War II film, they'll mention that it happened or is happening during something else. We never have had a movie, I think, where we've really gotten to take a look at it like that.
Yeah.
And I, like we were talking about before, like, I love that he strips it away where it's not this character-driven thing. It's like, no, like, witness this thing. See this thing.
Yeah.
And I think that...
Pure cinematic experience.
Yeah, exactly.
It's what Nolan talks about constantly. Like, it's what he, like, drives. It's him as an artist. Like, it's what he wants to do. Yeah. He wants people to go to movie theaters. And this movie was made to be seen in a movie theater. That's its purpose.
Yeah, and it's not meant to stop and have exposition dumps.
No.
Where we learn Tom Hardy's backstory and how he learned how to fly.
And honestly, Hoyt van Hoytema, the cinematographer, this is brilliant cinematography. And he's doing it with some of the hardest cameras to film with IMAX film. And, like, strapping these things to these old planes and flying them over the ocean, crashing them into the ocean. It just the technical brilliance. And
it was so worth it for them to go through that effort because it sticks out. It shows.
Sinking the ship. I mean, there's just so much that they do in this. It really is a singular experience. And, you get that Hans Zimmer in there too, doing what he does. Just brilliant all around, aesthetically to your senses. This movie just kind of drives everything home. Yeah. So that's why it's my number 3. I think Dunkirk was fantastic. I already own it on Blu-ray and I've watched it. It's a great movie. So, Jamai, what do you got at number 3?
Number 3, I know everybody's probably waiting for this movie to come up on everybody's list, and it has arrived on mine. The Claws come out with Logan at number 3. Logan, I know a lot of people... maybe weren't quite, I think, ready for like an R-rated X-Men movie, and I think that some people want to jump on it just that it was being R-rated to be R-rated, but this is finally the movie to me where Wolverine makes sense and it feels right. It's such a great X-Men film, beyond the expectations that I had for it, because I'm up and down with the X-Men films. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
For me, they're a case-by-case basis. How much I like them or dislike them. So, for me, I didn't come in with this thing that I was, hanging on to with those films, where I needed to do this, and this. And I think it really highlighted Logan's story, finally, in a way that drove it home for me in such great ways. It taking its influences tonally from Western films. I thought was a great route to kind of tell the story of this kind of, this lone gunman that has been wandering around all these adventures, and how do you close out the man with no name story? And I think that Logan is that kind of film. It has, for me, my favorite villain this year in this movie, and that being the corporation that is after him. I think a lot of people want a villain to be a singular person with a face. So is the Doctor the bad guy? Is Donald Pierce the bad guy?
Is X-24?
Is X-24 the bad guy? It's no, they're all the fucking bad guy. They're collectively the bad guy. And those are the worst bad guys to me, is the faceless, rich corporations who can do what they've done to Logan. And it's one of the things for me where it's like, there's so many concepts in this film that don't work in other films for me. But I think that when you look at Logan's story and the way that James Mangold pulls these things off, it works. Like X-24, like I would hate that in like so many other films. Like there's like, oh, he fights a doppelganger version of himself. I'm already criticizing Black Panther for that shit. I haven't seen that movie yet. And this is literally identical character. He's literally fighting himself. But I think that it's because when you've watched now, as we've watched Wolverine through all of this, like the fact that they are taking the only thing maybe he thought he had control over. The whole thing has basically been they want to make him a weapon. So he runs from being a weapon. Well, they said, hey, well, guess what? Well, fuck you. We'll make the weapon. We'll make you the weapon anyway.
And we're going to make it
outside of your
soulless.
Choice. Soulless. It's everything that you feared you'd ever become embodied now in physical form.
And Hugh Jackman's performance, it wouldn't work as well, but Hugh Jackman is amazing in this movie, and a lot of people were trying to get him to be Oscar nominated. I'm just gonna go dig into it here because I actually have Logan as my number 2.
Yeah.
So we're just gonna kind of go through here, but this movie, yeah, I did not expect a comic book movie to come out that felt and when in the opening sequence when he wakes up in that car and he pulls his claws out and just starts cutting limbs off, and you just see the state that Logan is in this film. He's dying, the alcoholism, and just like him running, him alone, him essentially waiting to die.
Yeah.
That emotional tone, like after seeing this Hugh Jackman play this character for 17 years. I was 10 years old when I went and saw the first X-Men movie, and I grew up, and like the 5 years previous to that, like watching the animated series and Wolverine being my favorite character. So literally growing up with this person and seeing him in this state and finally getting to see kind of that brutality also brought to the screen added that extra oomph to it. It added that extra, in essence, realism to the character, and seeing that. And of course, Patrick Stewart in this movie is amazing. We've been growing up with him too, Yeah,
it's Professor X.
It's Professor X, 17 years.
The stuff with him in there that's the hardest stuff is the stuff with Patrick Stewart. He is so good in this film. I really hope that the Academy looks at it like they did The Dark Knight a little bit, or maybe even more so.
I really hope so.
I hope that broke enough ground with them that something like this can get recognized.
He's amazing. Yeah.
Its performances are as good, if not better, than any other movie that's getting nominated this year for anything. Like Patrick Stewart as Professor X in this movie is phenomenal. I think that he definitely deserves to get some sort of supporting actor nod. This movie, like you said before, like it going for the R rating, and a lot of people were like, "Oh, they're just doing it for that sake." But for a Logan story, to me, it's always been the opposite, where it's like when they're trying to shoehorn him into these PG-13 films, it's like, that's not Logan. Like, you know what I mean? Like, that's not what that character would kind of say. And like, yeah, in the comic books, it wasn't quite that, but we all knew what he meant. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think that we ask for quite a bit of realism now in our movies, or at least to an extent. With certain aspects of the characters, we ask for more realism. And I think that this movie wouldn't have made as much sense to not kind of, like, let it, like, take the kid gloves off. I think that everybody has kind of wanted to see Logan just being himself and not trying to edit himself around a PG-13 blockbuster.
I think
to really show the character finally, and then give the character finality.
The finality aspect of it, I think, is what really makes it. I don't even know why people would complain, because I think, like, even like the language, his violence, just like the brutality and like almost that carelessness, it's culminated to that, and I think that's why it works so well, because of everything that we've seen prior to this. It's the end of the line, and of course, this character at the end of the line is going to say fuck a lot.
Yeah.
You're like, why is this? Where they're just like putting it in there, they're forcing it in there. It's like, I'm sorry, I hear fuck a lot. Like people say that all the time. Like, it's really not that strange to hear in the world. But I loved the Western aesthetic. James Mangold truly put something He truly made something special. Marco Beltrami too, with the music, the original music in this film, was a big standout. It's probably my favorite comic book movie score this year. It's just like that harmonica, that Western motif. The stuff they do in it is just fantastic. Cinematography and just the closure to this character. Someone who's been so special to me my whole life, and seeing him go out in such a special way. I've watched this movie quite a few times now, and it's one of my favorite comic book movies of all time. If it is my favorite comic book movie.
The last part I want to touch on with Logan before we move on is definitely, though, this movie also has a lot of real-world themes. I love what they do with the future X-Men world, how it parallels our own, talking about like the farmer and his crops, the corporation, how they got rid of the mutants, the self-driving semis, all of this stuff. If that stuff didn't ring alarms in your head, you're not paying attention to your own world enough. Like I said, it's within that stuff where I talk about how the corporation in Logan, I think it's like the Trans Corp or whatever, they are the best villain from this year because of that. This nameless, faceless group of men, these people that have been experimenting on him.
The Illuminati.
Like, well...
Yeah,
to an extent, but like it's
the Rockefellers.
Yeah, you know, and it's definitely, like I said, it has a lot of themes about our society in America right now.
Yeah,
and the plight of kind of the 1% versus the 99, and I think that like I said, it makes them the most disgusting villain because it's so close to what can really happen in our own world. Substitute mutants for any other group of people who are ostracized within society, and this movie gets really serious really quickly. Logan, fantastic fucking movie.
So that was your number 3. My number 2.
Yes.
Going on to your number 2, Giovanni.
My number 2 is Wind River. This is like we talked about before, like you said, in yours, like didn't go in with any kind of prep. Just knew that Taylor Sheridan was writing and directing this thing. I was like, I have to see that. I loved Hell or High Water. On further reflection, my last year list, I would actually switch it now. Hell or High Water being my favorite film from 2016. Wind River is honestly, it is unlike any movie I've ever seen, and is unlike any films that come out today. The movies that I think it's emulating and kind of like kind of pulling some of its like tonal cues from don't exist anymore. They're all westerns with like 6-shooters and cowboy hats and horses and stuff. Like it manages to take a area of the United States that is never talked about and a group of people in the United States that aren't really talked about. It's showing the bleak reality of what a lot of Americans actually live in.
Yeah.
We talk about, America, like in all these like great things, but these Indian reservations, these methed out people, these people with nothing around them besides snow and blank, it's such a great backdrop for this whole story. And it's the exact, I think, thing that we kind of need to see right now. In a lot of these films. Yeah. I think that... that Wind River has a lot more going on with it than I think meets the eye. Really, like, looking at the life on the reservation in Wyoming.
Hell or High Water did the same thing. There's depth to it.
Taylor Sheridan, like I said, is one of my favorite recent filmmakers. Sicario, I actually just recently rewatched that. I hadn't watched it again since I had first seen it. And I rewatched it leading up to this, and I was just like, oh my god, I love Taylor Sheridan. Like, it's such an amazing film. I put it on, like, as I was kind of laying down. I was like, oh, okay, maybe I'll watch some of this and doze off. I stayed up and watched all Sicario. I couldn't help it.
We get Danny Villeneuve and Taylor Sheridan.
Oh, jeez. So it's really hard for me to, like, to not want to go see something like Wind River. You touched on it before. It has Jeremy Renner's greatest performance. His character in this is is just, it's honestly like, he never really gets the chance to be like the leading man in a film, and I think that this movie proves exactly why. He's able to quietly contain this character and everything that this character's carrying around, and you just see these flickers, like there's like, you know, this flicker behind his eye or what he does, and it's so subtle and small that you get so much with so little with him, and it's like the small outbursts mean so much when they happen.
Yeah, I love it's like the unraveling of the character. There's a mystery.
Yes.
The movie is a mystery in itself, but it's also like Jeremy Renner's character is also a mystery. Like how he's connected to the events of the film, or just emotionally, and just how the character development in the film, how it's slowly revealed to you through his performance is amazing, and his relationship also with Gil Birmingham. His character in this film that's actually one of the more powerful performances this year. It's short-lived. It's not, he doesn't have a ton of screen time. But like that bond and that brotherhood, when they come together, if you've seen the movie, and when they come together, it's so powerful. And it's so memorable. And like, I mean, it's just one of those moments when you're watching a film as me this year, just where you're just like, you know, you just kind of you can't contain it. You know, you can't contain what these two actors are doing on screen, and just the way Taylor Sheridan wrote this. It is brilliant filmmaking. Yeah, I can't wait to watch this movie again. I need to rewatch this one.
I bought it right away.
I might need to go buy it on my way home. Actually,
it captures a lot of the things I love. I love crime films.
Yeah.
So for me, a crime mystery
well.
film like this, it just plays into exactly what I want. Its ability, and Taylor Sheridan's ability to capture great themes about our country. Like, he is making great. I'm not talking about like a nationalistic, like patriotic, rah-rah American way. I'm talking about like, let's actually truly tell stories of the people who live in this fucking country.
Yeah.
And I think that he is doing that better than anyone right now. He is reinvigorating what the word Western means. Like, we can sit there and go like neo-Western, neo-noir, neo-yada, whatever. It's a fucking Western, okay? Like, just because there's no horses and the cowboys and the six-shooter,
there is some horses in it.
There is some horses.
Yeah.
But it's definitely not in the traditional sense of, like, people think that you have to set it in that time period.
Yeah.
In order for it to be a Western, I think that Taylor Sheridan's career, because honestly, watch Sicario again and tell me that that's not kind of a fucking Western a little bit. Like, you put cowboy hats and horses under these fuckers, and it just turns into like a different film to people visually.
Josh Brolin, I mean, he's he's always in a Western, right?
He's pretty much, if he's in it, it's a Western.
Yeah.
But no, it honestly though, like, what he's doing for this genre is reinvigorating it and getting it back to what it used to be. These used to be stories about real people who live in this country. And he is really, I think, like I said, carving out this beautiful place for him right now in film, and especially in American film, telling stories that aren't about rah-rah patriotism, glory, but of actual sobering looks at ourselves. And it has just amazing performance by Elizabeth Olsen, Jeremy Renner. John Bernthal shows up and is, as always, fantastic. It is a movie that features ugliness and heinousness, but it's a darkness that you have to look into. Yeah,
I think so too. And am I mistaken? Is it based on a true story? Are there aspects taken of it?
I think so.
I think it was. I was just looking at the poster. It doesn't say it on it, but that doesn't necessarily mean anything. Wind River is a real place, and actually, if you start reading up about that reservation, it's sobering, and it's sobering that is happening in the United States. That type of segregation essentially is occurring in the United States. It's eye opening, and I can't recommend Wind River enough.
Yeah, it's Yeah, like I said, all the way up to my number 2 this year, and definitely one I'm going to keep watching from now on. I actually recently lent my copy of it to a friend, but I'm really glad. As soon as I lent it to him, he messaged me pretty much the next day and was like, "Thank you so much for showing this to me. We need to get together and talk about this one." And that's always good when you got a film like that. So, we have gone through 10 to 2, and we are at the final decision. And this is the one place here on Back to the Feature where we have some solidarity. There is a unanimous decision, and we all bow at the altar of Blade Runner 2049 here at Back to the Feature.
Oh, Blade Runner 2049. Blade Runner 2049. Blade Runner 2049. So yeah, going. It's funny too because we kind of last minute decision decided to go see this in IMAX.
Mm-hmm. We were idiots apparently up until that moment.
Idiots.
Until that very moment, we were idiots.
Well, we got to drive a ways to go see to go to our big IMAX theater there.
You gotta pick and choose.
Yeah, you gotta pick and choose. But holy shit. Denis Villeneuve is, he's starting to make his name known to everybody, especially after Arrival. Mm-hmm. But I've been following him since 2013 when Prisoners came out. Enemy was a big standout as well. I loved it. Just that Kubrickian type mystery and, that David Lynch kind of feel. Sicario, even his older stuff, Incendies, Polytechnique. He's a filmmaker. He's an auteur. He's somebody who takes this seriously as art, and I'm not the biggest Blade Runner fan.
No, wasn't a big fan of the first movie.
Not a big fan. And this not even slowly, this was my number 1 anticipated film of the year. You got Roger Deakins in cinematography, and this is probably the best cinematography I've ever seen. I think a lot of people, when people think of cinematography, they think of like fields and like sunsets and sunrises and like people walking around, like just photography in general. But for you photographers out there and people who film, you understand that like lighting is a major piece to that puzzle. And this movie has some of the greatest interior lighting I've ever seen, ever. It is like the most brilliantly shot film I have ever seen. And then you got Hans Zimmer, who did the original music for this film, and just, oh man, I'm just gonna, the technical aspects aside, the plot really blew me away as well. The continuation of the story and just diving in to the complexities and this of what Blade Runner stands for, the original, and what this one does as well.
Yeah, this the thing is, and I'm not gonna go on the technical stuff so much because I think that everybody knows. Yeah, this is a beautiful fucking film. This movie is,
if your eyes are open,
gorgeous, and I'm so glad that this movie got the budget it got to be this gorgeous. I'm so glad they didn't give them any penny less than what they had to get this done. And I know it didn't really light it up in the box office, but I'm so thankful. I'm thankful this movie exists. And honestly, it's because this plot really pokes into something that I love. Because right now in the world of superheroes dominating the box office, and things like Star Wars being this huge franchise that everyone rallies around, things like that. The fact that this movie is basically about, that idea of that destiny or fate or this chosen one character, that is kind of the whole trick of this film in a way, like with the character of Kay. Is you're sitting there going like, oh yeah, he must be the chosen one. Oh yeah, it's got to be his destiny. Yeah, that's how that shit works in films.
Yeah, it's true.
And maybe it's the nihilist in me, but it's the moment you find out that no, he is just another person. He's just another replicant. Whatever you want to determine there with the whole themes about where the soul begins, which is something that we've touched on, but I think that this movie does in some very different ways that make it so great. But it's that thing of, you see that hope rise and die in him of this thing, of this destiny, this supposed, maybe this all means something more. But at the end of the day, it doesn't matter if it means something more to him as an individual. It is about all of these things together. It is all, you know what I mean? It's the what's going on is bigger than himself. And Kay is able to kind of give himself up to that.
And doing so, showing what it means to be human.
Exactly.
Yeah, I think, well, I mean, everyone knows, for the most part, Blade Runner essentially created this type of science fiction.
The cyberpunk.
The cyberpunk. Yeah, and just like what does it asks the questions of what does it mean to be human. And you've seen that replicated and just the tropes of that just throughout the 80s and 90s, 2000s till now. The fact that this movie comes out as a sequel and does something that's completely original with it, still, the ideas it opens up goes directly back to Blade Runner. It's Denis Villeneuve. He is, I think now, easily we could say one of the best directors. Well, he's one of the best directors working today, but I think actually now, after seeing Blade Runner 2049, he should be in the discussion of some of the best filmmakers of all time. One of the best filmmakers of all time. That he was able to take that and take that idea from the original Blade Runner and completely build on that. Ask deeper questions with that, and then it didn't feel like anything that happened between Blade Runner and the sequel. It doesn't feel like he's pulling from anything else except the original film. That to me is what's really made this movie stand out above anything else. It's just, how did he do that? Like, how did he make such an original piece in 2017 as a sequel?
Especially like when we've had films like Blade Runner, we've had things like Ghost in the Shell, 95, not the one from this year, that have come out, the Matrix, things like that really question, like, reality, what is existence, is perception reality, is, and I think that, like, what Blade Runner 2049 does is it takes it to that next step. Is like, instead of looking at the individual, it's like, what does it mean to be alive, and like, what are the things that make human beings different than others, and it's about the cycle of reproduction. And I think that to go to that, to like, what if these replicants had a child? What would that mean? I think that for that being kind of the starting point for this film, and starts off the themes in the discussion of, like, where does the soul begin, and what does that mean? How can you tell? Like, there's a great line that Robin Wright says to him, and it's, you've done well so far, not having what? A soul. And it's like, it's one of those things where it's like, to every other thing, Kay is just a person. He's just a person like anybody else. But because of him being a replicant and not being a human, he doesn't have a soul. And I think the movie goes and shows that, like, the distinction and the line of that is so blurred. And it's such a thin veil, and it's a thing that it's almost this arbitrary thing. Like, when you get to this point of, like, what replicants are, and what does that mean for who they are and what they deserve and the rights that they have, and like I said, he takes a concept that we've tread over so many times in other films and writing, and Philip K. Dick wrote this way before it became Blade Runner. So it's one of those concepts that we've tread over the existence of perception and everything like that. But I think that to bring it to that next eventual level, and then too, I think with, like, where we are in cinema and stuff like that, the whole stuff about destiny and things like that, I think really is what drives this movie to a new place.
Deep philosophical themes. I'm drawn to that. You were talking about, like, what does it mean for humanity too, or like, like the overarching themes, like, like stretching it out further. Mm-hmm. Denis Villeneuve is a master at that. I think we all saw that with Arrival. Taking that and making it about humanity, taking a concept we've seen before, and I feel like Terrence Malick is similar. He does things like that. Takes like these it's like philosophy and just stretching it out further, and putting that stamp on it, and making you reflect on these really important themes, and realities.
Yeah, and it breaks down all lines of race and nation and creed and everything like that. And it just his movies tend to cut, I think, to the core of just like, we're all humans, we all share this.
Yeah,
and I think he does that better than anybody.
I think like Prisoners is another example. I mean, it's what he does.
It doesn't matter where you're from or what have you experienced in the past. That movie is speaking to you on a human level.
Yeah,
all of his movies
morally
do that
complex.
thing.
Harrison Ford is really good in this.
Yes.
I think he showed up, and he gives a really good performance.
Yeah, he is great in this. Ryan Gosling is underrated in this.
He's underrated.
That's how good he is. He's really underrated. He's been doing this very subtle acting since Drive, and no one appreciates it. He really is a perfect subject, and I think that he lends himself so well to a director like Denny. He is able to do so much with so little and understands. It's like with every great drummer, it's when you don't hit the drum sometimes that is really a sign of true talent. And I think that Ryan Gosling does it better than anybody. Like, he does that. I don't think anybody's actually really doing that besides him in some ways, especially his peers and his age group of actors. Like, he does, like I said, he's such a great subject for a director, I think. Like going into it, just to be able to, he's like this great canvas for them to like draw onto. Yeah. And allows the film to work around him. And
he can do so much with his eyes.
Yes.
And his... And
it's not about doing nothing.
No.
You know, some people think that means that he's doing nothing. And it's like, no, he's doing exactly what he needs to do. Just enough that your wheels start spinning. And you understand what he's thinking and feeling. And you feel those things. And all it takes is a look, or not looking, or not blinking, or blinking. Like, it's all very subtle. It's all very small and understated to the max. And I think that, like, for a lot of people, that's why they undersell Ryan Gosling so often, because he doesn't do big, showy outbursts, because people think that's acting talent, is to be big and verbose and, you know, and grand and larger than life. And I think that what he does is, in a lot of ways,
express your masculinity that way.
Human, and in a lot of ways more expressive. Like I said, it's like a great drummer. It's not always when you hit the drum or how many times or how fast. Sometimes it's the moments where you let that pause, you have that rest, and I think that's the exact kind of philosophy with Ryan Gosling's acting, and I think that people need to appreciate that shit some more.
So yeah, Blade Runner 2049. Is our number one film of the year. It's been locked. Let's not lie. It's been locked in that spot for a while. It's been locked in. Yeah, I after watching it, it's really. Is there another movie that could come out this year that'll actually
uproot that?
No. It's a masterpiece, and I think it's just we don't get movies like that.
I'm already looking at it in that way of just like I said before. It's like I feel blessed. I feel blessed that they gave this movie the budget they gave it. They allowed it to be made. They let Denny do what he wanted. Like it's such a relief for like filmmaking that it happened.
I think it's one of the best movies of this decade, easy. But just when you watch that movie, there's nothing else that has come out this year with that same like effort put into it. There hasn't been. I think that movie just stands alone as one of the best things my eyes have seen.
Yeah, I definitely think we could sit here and gush on Blade Runner 2049 for the foreseeable future. But we are quite deep into this podcast, so we're going to finish up here. John, why don't you go through your list from number 10 all the way down to number 1 to review for everybody at home.
Number 10, I had Get Out. Number 9, I had It. Number 8, Mother. Number 7, I had Detroit. Number 6, Wind River. Number 5, The Disaster Artist. Number 4, Star Wars The Last Jedi. Number 3, Dunkirk. number 2, Logan, and number 1, Blade Runner 2049.
And my list from 10 to 1 goes as follows. Mother coming in at number 10. Number 9, Dunkirk. Baby Driver at number 8. Number 7, It. 6, Get Out. Number 5, Detroit. Number 4, 3 Billboards Outside of Ebbing, Missouri. Number 3, Logan. Number 2, Wind River. And number 1, The Blade Runner 2049. Guys, I really hope you enjoyed hearing our list. If you guys haven't seen some of these movies, man, and don't you lie to me, none of y'all saw Detroit. So go see it. I know you didn't. So, can't fool me. Go check out some of these ones. I hope that us talking about some of them got you interested, or even just hearing them name dropped a couple times. You know, you heard in this one, hey, they mentioned Wind River, both of them, twice, and they talked about it. Maybe I should go check it out. Please, guys, all these movies on this list are good movies. Film is subjective, yes, but I am going to say it. All these are good films. Go watch all of them. They're all worth your time. You'll like them to varying degrees, but as we said before, this is a blend of objective and subjective. There's a lot of ones that are on here because, yes, we love the technical prowess with which they're made, but then some of these are just stuff we love.
Yeah.
So, guys, tell us in the comments, what is your top 10 list? If you got one, throw it down in the comments, and we can compare to ours. Tell me if you guys have seen some of these smaller films and what you thought. And if anyone's going to ask in the comments, guys, we did not get to go see The Shape of Water yet. I really wanted to see it before this list.
Yeah,
it just didn't happen.
Some honorable mentions. That's not a bad thing to throw out there. Lady Bird was another film that I thought was fantastic from this year. Just barely missed out on my list. I just think, it's just one that, I don't know, I need to brew on a little bit. It could change and make my top 10. I actually really loved It Comes at Night as well. That was really hard to leave off this list. I know not a lot of people like that one either, but I think that's a young filmmaker who made a fantastic film. And it's
marketing fucked it. I think.
Yeah, marketing messed that one up. But I truly enjoyed that film as well.
I'd say an honorable mention on my end was Marvel films in general. I thought they were all delightful. I know that everybody's got their favorite pick. Ragnarok was so much fun. Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 I really, really loved. Spider-Man Homecoming is like the Saturday morning cartoon Spider-Man that I've kind of always wanted a little bit. Some people call it Iron Man Jr. and stuff. I get it. But I really enjoy it. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, all those were great.
Yeah, so Marvel, I thought they killed it throughout the year.
I'm a big DC fan as well, and Wonder Woman was a pretty awesome movie to come out this year.
Guys, I'm woke as all hell. Love ladies, and I love Wonder Woman as well. I definitely don't want to leave that one off our list. But, guys, if you are truly woke, you'll know that Catherine Bigelow was the queen of directing this year, not Patty Jenkins. Go check out Detroit. Go watch that shit. Go watch it. Wonder Woman was a great, great film from this year as well. So, guys, that has been our top 10 list of 2017. Like I said, give us your list in the comments. I've been Giovanni Carlo.
And I'm John Vanderloop.
And we'll see you guys next time.